see if I can flip this around. Okay, babe.
And the radio station is a gospel station?
No, it's a talk platform.
Okay.
It does music, talk, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. I'm drinking a little wine. Would that be frowned upon?
Hey, do
Not
you?
at all.
Do you?
Okay. I don't want to get in no trouble.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, so we want to welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And I tell you guys, we have some awesome guests that's joining us on this evening. Dr. and Mrs. Evans. I tell you, these guys are a phenomenal power couple that's going to just bring some insight and some wisdom to the blended family on tonight. So we just want you guys, listen, if you're a blended family, if you're intended on being a blended family, if you know a blended family, you want to reach out and tell them to tune in tonight to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. The Evans are just going to share with us. We're going to ask them some tough questions. No, not tough questions.
Bring on.
No, but we're going to ask them some things that we know that's going to be an absolute blessing to you guys on tonight. And so before we get started, we just want to give a couple statistics because normally we give statistics as far as the blended families are concerned. One of those things is that according to the most recent data, 16% of children are living in what the Census Bureau terms blended families, a household with the step families, step siblings, or half siblings. This share has remained stable since the early 1990s, when reliable data first became available. At that time, it was 15% of kids that lived in blended family households. All told, about 8% are living with step parents and 12% are living with step siblings or half siblings. The second one is 1,300 new step families are forming every day. That's a profound number, and that's why we thought it was so necessary to bring forth a platform such as this. And then the last stat on this evening is 50% of the 60 million children under the age of 13 are currently living with one biological parent and that parent's current partner. So whether it's a partner or a spouse.
Yeah, either.
And so, listen, guys, before we really get into the mix, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
You gonna go first?
Well, when you say about yourselves, that's kind of broad. I mean, we can go all day talking about ourselves.
Give it to me.
I'll give you a snapshot of us as a family. I love the concept or the term blended family, but we're family first, and I think one of the things that we want to get across to people is family is what you make it. I don't care if it's blood or not, you choose your family. At the end of the day, you can have people who are blood related and you don't speak to them.
Yes.
People who are blood related have no input in your life, no influence, but people who are not, those are the people that you go to. Those are the people that's your support system. So family is all about the choices that we make, right? So we're a family first. So, I was previously married, and so was my wife. I initiated the divorce from my previous relationship, and I had 2 kids from that relationship, and I had one prior to that relationship. So we were a blended family at that point. And I brought 3 children to the table, and so did my wife. So she had 3 children from her previous marriage. And so now we all have, we have 6 children, and it's 8 of us total. We say we are 8. But it was, it was very essential. I think a lot of times when people are vetting who they're going to spend their life with, they don't necessarily look at certain things going in. They're not necessarily looking at what is your parenting style, what is, what goes into how you are rearing your children, because those things are going to play out in your relationship. And so we saw eye to eye on those things prior to getting married. That was a prerequisite that certain things were going to be in place. If I see that your children are disrespecting you, what are they going to do to me? Right? So if respect was of utmost importance for both of us going in already, it was already established, right? And so, we came to the table already with a similar mindset with respect to how we raise our children. I have shared physical custody with all three of my children. They spent half the time with me and half the time with their mom. And my wife has full custody of the children. So, we have at many times we are all together. And so a lot of blended families are not quite the same, where there's not as much time spent, but we get a lot of time spent with each other. And going in, it was important that there was a meshing. It was important that there was a connection. And I think that children are very intuitive. They're very sharp. They know if you have their good intentions in mind, right? They know that. They pick up on that. So early on, they were able to see both of us had good intention for the entire package. And so, that's a little bit about us. Did you need some more details?
You might have been talking about what we do.
No, I mean, hey, I just wanted to
like what we do for a living, like that.
No, that was great. Let me ask you this question: what role did counseling play in the beginning with you guys, or did it play a role at all?
The first thing is that I'm a professional counselor. So
right, he's a psychologist.
That's what I do all day, right? So I came to the table with some insight, which was very, very crucial. It was very crucial because we have to have some insight as far as communication. We all know that's the number one thing that needs to be tight, and that's the thing that breaks down relationships, right? Is a breakdown of communication. So that was something that was paramount in the beginning, was us having self-awareness of our flaws, and being self-correcting and being willing to put in the work to correct those things that continue to come about, because we're constantly evolving. So as far as premarital counseling, that was also essential, because even though I'm a psychologist, a counselor, it was imperative that we go to someone and still, go through that process to make sure that we iron out everything. It was so funny. By the end of it, he was like, I don't know why y'all came, but it was good that when we went, and the things that he discussed, we had already
put in the work.
We'd already done the work.
Yeah.
So it was reinforcement, and I loved it, because we went to a pastor, and I'm not a pastor, I am Christian, but I don't automatically impose that in my counseling. So I think it was important for us to go to seek out pastoral counseling so that we can get the biblical aspects and make sure that we're on the same page with that, which we were, because I think that's another thing that comes into place is the hierarchy, when it comes to who's most important for you in your life. It's very important that you are on the same page with your hierarchy, because in blended families, what I see is where if you come with a child already, oftentimes you put your child first. Well, that's going to be a major issue if that is your hierarchy when it comes to your relationship, because your children have to understand that they come after your spouse, right? And that's very important, because that unity is what keeps the relationship tight. Yes. And when that breaks down and division comes in between that, you in for it. And I see that all the time, because the hierarchy is all jacked up. You gotta get it together.
I love it. You have anything, Steve?
No, we can go on to the next one.
Don't try to be quiet.
What to do all day.
So let me answer this question. Let's go back a little bit. How did you guys meet?
Okay. So we met through a friend of ours, a mutual friend who was having a
birthday party / launch business
a
party.
business launch party.
Yeah.
Neither one of us was at a place where we were actually seeking anything at the moment. You know, I was actually in separation, and my divorce wasn't final when I met her. So our initial meeting was not, I'm trying to holler at you. It was, you know, just the opposite of that. It was just, you know, getting to know one another. We met each other at this event, friended each other on Facebook, you know, because we had some interaction at the event that was funny, you know, friended each other on Facebook, and our communication for a couple of months was just talking back and forth on Messenger. It wasn't even, we weren't seeing each other in person. It was all about getting to know one another and who we are. So she knew.
I didn't even know he was interested, to be honest. I did not know. I was actually standing about to get a drink, and he came up and was like, "Hey, I like your haircut." And I was like, "Thank you." You know, I mean, look, I don't think every man that comes, because I wear my hairstyle a lot different than most women. You know, I had this red mohawk, you know, a dark female, so I get a lot of compliments on my haircuts, you know. And when he said it, I was just like, "Thank you," and I kept it moving, right? I had no, and again, like he said, it was never came from a place of, "Hey, I'm trying to get to know you," anything like that. It just really developed over time. So
yeah, and you know, the beginning of us getting to know each other was full transparency and full disclosure. So she knew exactly what was going on in my life, and I knew exactly what was going on in her life. And so we had an opportunity to get to know each other from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm. And that was super crucial for me, because I actually knew what was going on in the background. Someone had, you know, kind of told me this is his situation. And in the middle of us kind of talking back and forth, and I laugh about this all the time. I had asked him, I was like, "Hey, so what are you cooking for dinner?" And then he, in Messenger, bubbles were just jumping, and it was jumping for like 20 minutes. So I thought he did sleep or something. He gave me full disclosure about everything. I have custody of, I'm in a separated, I have this amount of kids, and this is what's going on, and blah. And I was like, "So does that mean you cooking lasagna?" I mean, I asked him what was his thought process behind that, just laying it on me. And he was like, "I thought your next question might have been, who are you cooking dinner for?" So him being honest and upfront, and I was like, "Oh, okay. You sure it can't work? You know, I'm a woman first. You know what I'm saying? What's going on there? Are you sure? No counseling, no, you know." So I really appreciated that about him, and think that is so crucial, just in any relationship, is that full disclosure, and let me decide. Don't hold anything back. I'll figure out whether or not I can deal with it or not, you know, whether or not I can deal with it. So that's how we actually, and he actually friended me. We didn't friend each other. He found me. I accepted his request to laugh at him a little bit, laugh at him, to tease him a little bit. So.
And how long you guys been married?
2 years. May 2 years. May 2 years. It feels like it's still fresh and it's still new, our whole relationship, but it feels so comfortable, to the extent of we know each other so well. You know, the time that we spent together, like you said, we had a really, really solid foundation of getting to know each other, you know, growing together and things of that nature. So it just feels like it's kind of been a long time in a sense.
Yeah. I think the benefit that we had was both of us being married previously.
Yeah, which is a form of counseling, right? Experiences of counseling.
I know some people who have been married multiple times, and sometimes people don't necessarily learn from the first experience. So they take themselves into the next experience and then into the next experience without self-correcting. And so for both of us to have experienced it before, we both understood a sense of urgency with respect to being self-correcting and self-aware. And we kind of knew what it was that we were looking for. I definitely wasn't looking for anything at the moment. She just happened to be like very timely. I'm like, hey, like, man, I thought I was gonna be free for a minute. Like, okay, I'm gonna be out here. Nah, messed all of that up. I'm like, hey, how you just gonna drop out of nowhere? Mess me up.
Yeah, and even in that, timing, like you said, was everything. And while he was going through his transition, I was like, and he was very respectful, we saw eye to eye on that. And again, it was just like, hey, let's just kind of be cool and figure this whole thing out along the way. So, just humbly blessed. I call him my king. He was a king before he met me, right? He had that title, and I could see it, the way that he interacted and fought for being in his kids' lives, and just handling business and just unfortunate circumstance, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people miss out on major blessings considering a temporary circumstance that someone is going through. So yeah.
Yeah, and we this year we've been focusing on faith, family, finance, fellowship, and fitness. And I know you guys maximize all 5 of those categories.
Absolutely.
And so that's why it was a joy just for you guys accepting this invitation.
Oh man. It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's more ours. And but I wanted to ask you guys, since you've been married, what experiences have you gone through that you can identify in bringing you to where you are now? And I know it's been 2 years, but are there any things that you can identify, or is there a theme that you can identify that you've experienced together that have put you in the mindset or the frame of life that you're in now?
Since being married.
Since being married, that's a good one.
Since being married. A lot of work was done prior to marriage. A lot of work was done prior to marriage.
Go ahead and enunciate a lot of work again.
I'm just saying.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. That's what I was thinking, like during the marriage.
I think during the marriage, the thing that stands out is just the fruit of the labor that was put in prior to, like, even 8 months prior to marriage, we fasted from sex, and we prayed, and we got into the word, and and we were serious about it. And, and so much so that there were several, I talk about this often in the power of fasting, how there were moments where we were actually in conversation with God. Like literally we were talking about something one day, and we would go to a scripture the next day and get the answer to the thing we were talking about. And it was like, oh, this could be a coincidence. But then it happened several times. It was like, man, this is scary, right? So, I think that a lot of things, mindset wise, and now we're seeing fruit, because when it came down to it, we had an understanding that it was her and I, it's us, and we got each other, and we're going to support each other, and we're going to be there for each other. So we've had to go through, what other families have to go through. So we, you want to talk about how Cisco and, the transition from going from cybersecurity to, so, she's a cybersecurity engineer, one of like 2 Black women in the whole industry. And she was, they're flying her all over the place. She's going annually mandatory to Vegas for training, which I'm like, okay, Training. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They having concerts and all this, right? So, well, they did a restructuring, and her position got, exercised out, and they gave her opportunity to apply for something else. But she took that moment to dive into, okay, well, let me do my own thing.
Mm.
So, she's been getting into day trading and some other things that she's doing, life coaching. She's just like, I'm going to become a butterfly, right? And of course, I had already left the federal government after 14 years. I could have done 20-year retirement. I said, I'm out, right? So, we went through that together, and it wasn't even a blink. It was like, okay, let's get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas there was no stress, there was no anxiety, there was no arguing about, this or that or money or this or that. It's like, one, our faith has already been tested. So we already know you could throw us in the middle of an ocean and
God got it.
I think a whale might come up and catch us and carry us back to the land.
God got it. It's that's serious.
It's that profound. Mm-hmm. So with having that foundation being solid, the things that have come along the way, just like the pandemic and all that type of stuff that people are going through, we just been weathering. One of the things that I learned just through my practice and dealing with people who struggle every day, life is going to hit us in waves, right? It's all about our attitude during the wave.
Yes.
We can't avoid the waves. Waves are going to come. That's life. But we can't control our attitude while we're going through. Because ultimately, we're going to get through on the other side. Is whether we were struggling and crying the whole way or whether we was enjoying ourselves, right? And so as the waves come, we're just taking on the waves and riding them. We surfing on them joints.
Right? Yep. You good, babe? I'm good. We do these check-ins and, talks with our family and pull them all together and make sure everybody's good. So
I think that's something that has stood out. I think because we have children that range from age 5 to 20.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 that are both 20 right now. So they are on their way, transitioning to do their thing. As children get older, of course, they get opinions. They have their own position on things. They have, and so it's very important for us to provide as much information as possible, because if they're left to come up with things on their own, they come up with anything. And so we've had moments like that where we've had to educate the children, the older ones, on this is what's going on, and when it comes down to it, yes, if a choice has to be made, I'm going to choose my wife. She's going to choose me. You have to answer to us. It's not a separation thing, because they will try that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, they had. In the beginning.
They tried their hand. But because the unity was tight, they couldn't break that bond. But they want to try, because with children and biological parents, they're going to try to split. If both of the parents are biological, the children are going to try to split you. They know who's the weak link, who's going to hold us accountable. So they're going to go to the weak link. Hey, Dad, hey, can I get right? They're going to try their hand. But what are they going to do if you're not biological? Oh, my goodness. They're really going to try their hand. So that has come out, and the children have had to get checked. And we back at it. Mm-hmm. Once the understanding is there, it is what it is, because they know it's all love, but of course, I think that was initially a challenge, where it's like, hey, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to having to come second to somebody else. I'm used to you catering to me. Why do I have to answer to this other person? Mm-hmm. All of that kind of stuff came out, and it had to be made clear. This is the dynamic. Either you choose to accept it or you don't. If you don't choose to accept it, then we got to go a different route for you. Of course, they're not going to take the alternative, because what's the alternative, right? You miss out on all this good time and all this love. Mm-hmm. No, you just got to now be held accountable by 2 people instead of 1.
Exactly. Right. Something you said in the beginning, you guys consecrated yourself. And I love that because there's some things that can be done beforehand that can circumvent some things that can come afterwards.
Absolutely.
If not circumvent, it can also build you up for those things to come, like you said, riding the waves.
Absolutely.
And so I love that experience because that's exactly what I was looking for. What experience? Give me something that you guys did together to propel you to where you are now. And when you talk about the transition from corporate to now entrepreneur and business and things of that nature, it's clear that those steps that we took beforehand prepared us for now.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think what you just said highlighted, because one of the things that I see happening in relationships, because I do relationship counseling all the time, right? That's actually my favorite. I love relationships. And one of the things I see is people moving individually, where I have an idea, I have a business that I want to pursue, and the other person says, okay, go ahead and run with it, but they don't join the party.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And even if that's not something that's your dream or your love, there's a way that you can support that person in their effort, right? And so the support is just built into the process, right? It's just a part of the fabric of the relationship is I got you and you got me. And that's something that, like you said, was established prior to, where we were working on all of that. Like you say, we were developing our armor prior to, so that we would be able to take those things that's going to come in the middle of it, right?
I tell you, this is like a segue or a takeaway, and you kind of touched on it, but what's an actionable nugget that you can give people that they can apply right now? If you think of one thing that you guys experienced or that you've learned, what nugget can families apply right now to bring them increase in promotion, not only to their lives, but to their family?
Okay, I'll talk about the elephant in the room after you talk about, you got something you want to talk about? Go ahead, I'm talking about mine after yours.
Okay. See, I was going to talk about the communication, so it kind of
Well, I like
runs
what you
into
do
yours
with
too.
with like the setting up the stuff for the kids with the meditation and all that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Family time.
oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That's kind of, I guess for me, I think the actionable item is, I want to actually say two things. One, understanding that you are a team, right? And when you understand that you are a team, what does a team do? They make a plan and they have the same goal in mind. When you understand that you're on the same team and you have the same goal in mind, sometimes how you reach that goal may not necessarily go your way or the other person's way. You may have to make some type of compromise, because why? Ultimately, the goal is what matters. I think there's a lot of confusion and, tension and stuff like that normally happens in relationships and even in families when one says it has to go this way to get to this goal, and the other said, no, it has to go this way to get this goal. No, if our main goal, you know what, one of the main goals in my house, and even when we bought the house prior to even getting married, and I said, one thing I need our house to be is a peaceful haven. I need for our home to be a sanction, a place where you can come home, where the kids can come home and they can just lay it all down. I don't want no tension. I don't want no craziness going on. So because I had set the precedence for that, it was like, okay, if the goal is no tension, no, anxiety, I need to make sure the things that take place in the house cultivates that, right? So I may decide I'm not going to get on his nerves today because I know he came in, they sucking him, all day long for his energy and he's built for it. By all means, he compartmentalizes amazingly, comes home, doesn't let off any of those things. I absolutely love it. But still, I want to make sure he comes running home. He has this little emoji that represents him coming home and he's the skipping, running, happy dog, right? It's this little emoji that's in, Facebook Messenger. And when I don't see that for whatever reason, I need to check myself. If I see OTW, I need to find out what's going on, right? Because I want to keep that same momentum going on. So if that's my overall goal, if he agrees that's our overall goal, okay, well, you need to start doing some things to make sure that take place. So one of the things that I started implementing, and especially while the kids were out of school when they did the whole distance learning thing, every morning at 8:30, of course, I put them on a regimen. Everybody needs to be up, brush your teeth, wash your face, have clothes on, and downstairs. We started what's called Alluring Alignment. And that's a meditation every single morning with the kids at 8:30 in the morning. And I've taught them different meditation skills, different coping mechanisms, motivational minutes, inspirational. And then one week I even switched it and gave each one of them a day where they actually led the session. And they've talked about how it has completely changed their day, to the point where another one of our friends found out, and she started having her kids join from Zoom our meditation period moment. So that's just one of the things that we implement. Spending time with each other is crucial. Like, the time that we gather around the table, we play games, we have discussions. What are y'all feeling? Are you this BLM thing, this Black Lives Matter, moment? How do you feel about it? What is it that you're hearing? What can we do to help? So we communicate like crazy in this house. It's not even an option.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, because you actually touched on the question that I was going to ask you, and you're explaining it now. I was going to ask you.
Before you ask, let me give you one more nugget.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that was about the family and making sure that we are having family time, but we have to make sure that we have communication time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was something that came out of my previous relationship where I was the one that stopped talking. I went in as a communicator. I'm talking and talking and talking, but then I got tired of talking and said, you know what? I don't want to keep talking about the same thing over and over again. So I stopped talking. So that is something that I see often, where the breakdown of communication is the beginning of the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to make sure we talk, right? So now we have a day of the week that we check in with each other and we talk about the things that need to be talked about. If it's good, the bad, the ugly. And we call it Where We At Wednesday. So, on Wednesdays is our check-in day. And now it's really taking the form of, it starts out as an email, and oftentimes we already talked about the topic, or if we need to follow up after that, we'll talk about it. But I find it to be like a relationship sort of chronicle, like a relationship diary, where now we could put in our email WWAW and put a date in, and it'll pull up what was going on in our relationship at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, last year, this time we could pull it up and see what was going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to make sure that you are intentional about conversation and communicate about the real stuff, not just the weather and what's on, the news, what's going on with us.
Yeah. I don't like how you said that, or that hurt my feelings, or I don't like it when you did this. And then we always, again, just kind of discuss it and see, okay, well, that wasn't my intent. This is what I'm going to do differently. And even the person who felt some type of way, okay, this is how I'm going to move on. Maybe I'm not going to be so sensitive. You know what I'm saying? So we always, again, that end goal, we walk away with a resolution. So.
Right. And it's an opportunity to give each other kudos.
Yeah.
I don't think we build in the opportunity to make sure that we appreciate each other, which is very important.
And I think, I know Madeline wanted to say something, but I think that's huge, because a lot of families don't take a time to encourage each other.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense of giving those kudos.
Yeah.
Good, because I was going to ask them, what do you do to make sure that everyone's emotional needs are taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. One, the meditation is very big. I let them listen to like different people. It may be Miles Monroe, and it may be Les Brown. It may be Denzel. It may be anybody. A woman, Lisa Nichols. It may just be anybody. And then we say, okay, so how do you feel about that? How does it relate to you? You know. So, and the kitchen is where that was one of the other requirements when we got a home, because I'm telling you, I'm so humbly blessed. I can't even express how blessed I am that the kids are so attached to us, where they prefer to hang out with mom and dad, right? They like, all right, what y'all doing? All right, well, we ready to play a game, or when we're in the kitchen cooking. They all just kind of flock to us, and that's where our discussion happens. You know, the traditional family time, it's unheard of, right? That is something that we, used to do a lot of. Once we got our food together, sit there at the table. Now, a lot of our talks are actually happening while preparing dinner. So it's 8 of y'all. Y'all can help cook, everybody can help do something. And we take that time in the kitchen to have conversation. And I mean, our kids are super like open, and sometimes it's scary, right? How transparent, and they're like, okay, you take that one.
Well, also to answer that, I think that we've created a safe space for the kids to talk, because that's one of the things that I think lacks when it comes to parenting is parents, especially when you come from an old school mentality of be seen, not heard, and you be in a child's place, and you're talking around adults.
That don't fly nowadays.
All of that stuff has traditionally kind of bled down, and people still carry that on. And kids of today's age, they're not built that way, right? That's not in their fabric. They're the touch screen generation. So that means information is at their fingertips. So they can get information from everywhere else. They absolutely got to get it from you. If they can't get information from you, you are like contrary to their whole framework, right? They're like, hold up a minute, like, why can't I get information from them? Right. But we've created a place where it's okay to talk. It's okay to give us, how you feel. And that's another thing. We know them, so we know if something's off. We know their moves. We know what,
and they know us too.
Their mood swings, and who can be, a little snotty sometimes, and we know all of that.
Like, so she's hungry, she needs to get something.
We can check that. But when you don't spend enough time around your kids, and you don't know that, and you don't create an opportunity for them to speak, and you don't create an opportunity for them to voice their opinion, and you don't shut their opinion down, you make them okay to give their opinion, and you don't really get to know them, then it's hard to be able to tell their mood.
I like that. Speak to this for me. One of the things that I've seen over the years is that couples, they try to figure out the how, instead of understanding that it's the information that comes along with the process that really matters. Can you speak to that?
Oh, that's a good one.
When you say they focus on the how.
The how. Because a lot of times, like when you guys made your transition from corporate to now entrepreneur business, things of that nature, most people, they want to know the how. I got to know the step by step instead of understanding that there are valuable tools and nuggets that come along with the process.
Absolutely.
I have a story that I actually use for one of my my sessions that I do when I'm doing life coaching sessions, and it's actually called The Biggest Treasure. And I'll give you all the condensed version of that. But basically, it was this gentleman who was seeking out this biggest treasure. So along his journey, he, got rid of everything, and he just knew he had to travel light. So on his way to this biggest treasure, he stopped at one place, and he, of course, got hungry. So the young woman that was there at the stand said, "Hey, I heard you on your way to the biggest treasure. Why don't you take this with you?" He's like, "No, I want to travel light." So he got the food and kept on his way. Stopped another place because he got tired. "I heard you on the way to the biggest treasure." The gentleman said, "Yep, I'm on the way. Hey, I think you should take this along with you." Nope, I want to travel light. So as he continued his way to the biggest treasure, he was so focused on this big treasure because he knew that it had all of his desires and all of his wants stored at this one location, this one place. And as he stopped several different places, he ran into each individual, and someone wanted to give him something, but he was like, nope, I'm focused. I got to keep here to the biggest treasure. So once he finally arrives, and he was so excited, I'm here for the biggest treasure. I'm so excited. Give me my treasure. Give me my treasure. And it was like, you got your treasure. And it's like, no, where is it? I've traveled this long way for this biggest treasure. It's like, no, I don't have it. And it was like, yeah. Did you stop by all of these locations? See, sometimes we are so focused on the end result that we forget about the little things along the way, along, like you said, the process, the journey. If he would have picked up all of these little things along the way, he would have realized that it wasn't that end goal or end result of what it was that he was looking for, but it was the process that was actually building him and making him into this individual that he wanted to be. And I gave that kind of story because just like what you're saying, it is the process. It's not really that end result of what it is that we're looking for along the way. I've learned how to communicate what the end, what the how it's going to happen. It's not your business, right? It's God's business. It's as we are going through this thing together, you know what? I realized that I can't do this specific thing because it doesn't make my husband feel comfortable. So what is my takeaway from that? So each time we have these moments, that is what this whole thing is really truly about. It's about the process and what we learn as we have this journey. So again, the how, walking away from it. Hey, you know what? He led it in my heart. My heart is true. My desires to help people, and we both have an extreme passion to help people. Everything else will be figured out along the way. But as we go, stop and take note of the little things during the process or during the journey. So that's my little kind of story behind that.
Do we have time for me to add to it?
Oh, I know
Absolutely.
that.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I find out, because I talk about trust in the process all the time, and it does boil down to trust. That's the word. But oftentimes the quote unquote process is attached to hardship. It's attached to pain. It's attached to struggle. It's attached to work and effort. People want the shortcut. They just want to get to the end. They don't want to have to put in the work. They don't want to have to do all that stuff that comes along with how to get there. Mm-hmm. So what I find a lot of energy I have to put into helping people to understand the purpose of the process and understand how the pain and the hardship benefits you as a part of the process. Mm-hmm. There's nothing beautiful on earth happened without a process first, right? Nothing. You got birth, diamonds, butterflies, everything that's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It started off with some type of process, and there was usually some type of pain associated with that. And people want to stay away from the pain. So we talk about running towards the pain and not away from it. And that's the book that's coming out. Is going to be Running Towards the Pain.
Yes.
Because people don't understand the value of pain. It's associated with negativity. And we got to reframe all of that to help people to understand that, that's a part of the process. Let's enjoy the process.
I think of, it's going to sound weird when I say this, but I think of oodles and noodles and laxatives.
Okay.
I look at you guys, and you guys are a beautiful couple. You're nice and fit. And so that takes effort. That takes energy. That takes commitment. You know what I'm saying? You guys don't just eat oodles and noodles and take a laxative. You know,
right.
It gets no type of result.
I don't like oodles and noodles.
Absolutely.
But I say that because a lot of times folks just want junk, but then they want the treasure.
Absolutely.
Right. Absolutely.
You can't have the both.
No.
You can't have the junk and then you're just gonna get treasure. They're gonna have to make some work, some effort, some heartache, some pain. You know what I'm saying? I worked out with you, so I know you've been through some. You know what I'm saying? If in moments you left the gym and you was whipped. You know,
there you go.
People don't want to experience that.
Yeah.
They just want to experience the thought of this great life, this grandeur life, and these great things, but the processes to get those things, they don't want to go through.
Absolutely.
You gotta learn how to appreciate and not be afraid, because it's fear. People are afraid of the work that needs to be put in, and it's also a lack of courage and a lack of self-confidence oftentimes, because they don't feel like they have what it takes to get through the process. So they're like, just give me the easy way. I don't have what it takes to put in all of that work. You do. You know, y'all built for that. I'm not built for that, right? And that's the excuse that they'll give.
And you know, it's funny you said the fear thing, because one of my guys is, and you guys know him well, Bob Proctor. I love him, you know, and my wife will tell you, me and Bob talk every day. And one thing Bob said, he said, fear comes where understanding is lacking.
There you go.
And so a lot of times people are fearful because they just don't understand who they are.
Unknown.
Yeah.
They don't understand that they're fearfully and wonderfully made.
There you go.
We're created in His image. And when you understand that concept, it's out the door, because there's nothing that you can't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But you know what you're touching on too, and I find this to be true in practice. I see it all often where when there's a lack of faith and when there's a lack of belief, it hurts your ability to do exactly what you just said, because you can't relate to that. You
Absolutely.
know?
Yeah, and I think that is also, like you said in the beginning, it's a very big component of what we have. Like the faith, you know, to be able to walk away from, you know, a 6-figure job, you know, and they was like, hey, you can do another position. We won't mind. And they actually called me back, you know. I had a couple of offers from Facebook, Google, Amazon, you know, to come and work for them. But it was like, you know what? This is not my passion. God gave me the desires of my heart because I've always wanted to go into, you know, cybersecurity. I worked really hard for it. And once I got there, I was feeling so unfulfilled. And he was like, I've given you what I want you to do already. So, of course, you know, it just all aligned almost perfectly, you know, him leaving the government. And, you know, that was a push too. Like, hey, they not giving you what you, let's get up out of there. Let's go ahead and start your practice. And it has been, he cannot keep openings on his book, you know, and it's all glory to God. But a lot of that had to do with faith. He brought me through so much, and that's a whole nother show. You know, you talk to us individually about our testimonies. He has proven himself over and over and over again, and everything that we have and everything that we are, we know that it's because of him. But we had to first exercise that faith, because we know every time we step out there on the water, he has gotten us. And if we've taken on too much water, it's probably because we were hard-headed and did something we wasn't supposed to do. But outside of that, he still got us in the midst. So it just made things so much easier.
Now that statement takes me to this question. What role does gratefulness play in your success, whether it's marriage, family, or business?
What?
Everything.
Come on, man.
I wake up every single morning, even before I say good morning, King. I am awake. My eyes may be closed, but I immediately go into a state of prayer and gratefulness and humbleness. Because as I was saying before, it wasn't always this way, right? We both just said we came from previous marriages. So even some of the things that we experience between us that, you know, may not necessarily be ideal, is like, you know what? This is not even a big deal, because remember when, right? So for you to say, you know, and we'll just randomly be in the car and I'll be like, we got a house, and be like, a vicious joke. And then we'll be like, glory, 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 glory. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. So we'll just randomly, out of the blue, you gotta be grateful for what you have, because if you're not, why should he bless you with anything else, right? And even like I said, that moment I had, I don't know if y'all could feel that moment that I had of humbleness of my family unit, because these are the things that I prayed for. And because I prayed for it, it is only right for me to take care of them and to honor them. So that's why I'm giving my husband so much love, and not just publicly. I'm asking him, do you like it that way? Yeah. Do you want me to switch up something? What am I not doing correctly? And that's, you know what I'm saying? We gotta do that, because again, I can remember when. So when I can remember when, what I have now, I'm gonna make sure I take care of it.
Just to add to it, I'll start talking first.
You have been talking first. I've been quiet.
I just feel like my little 2 cents added in. Right? But
you know, it'd be like the paprika you put on there,
a little sprinkle.
sprinkle.
So I just think about how important. So let me go to the hierarchy, right? So you got God, and this is what I believe our hierarchy should be: God, ourself, our spouse, our children, family, friends, right? And the importance of having yourself after God is making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because if you're not, then you can't do nothing for your spouse. Mm-hmm. You got to be healthy and you got to be happy within you. And that's where the gratefulness comes in. Because if you're not grateful for what you got going in, then you're going to expect your spouse to fill that role. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be pissed off at your spouse, and you're not going to be grateful for your spouse. You're supposed to already be grateful. Mm-hmm. I'm already grateful.
Yes.
So now everything that she come with is bonus. Mm-hmm. So I get to be extra grateful, right? But it's absolutely essential, because people seek for happiness in the wrong places. The happiness is a result of gratefulness. When you're grateful of what you got, then you're happy.
And that, you know, before you say that, I was thinking about, I was talking to a brother the other day, and I was because you were talking about your wife and that gratefulness, and I said, listen, understand this. The Bible says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. But this is the key piece I think a lot of men don't understand. Not that we aren't favored, but there's another dimension of favor that comes along with our wives.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't say then obtain it. Because you can't obtain something you already have.
Is it offering time? Just saying.
Right.
But that gratefulness puts you in that position to now gather and get all those things that you so desire. Right. The gratefulness to keep on, because that's sowing and reaping. Right. Sowing and reaping should be so much so that reaping overtakes the sowing. Mm. See, that's when you're really grateful. That's when you're really thankful and grateful and happy and loving God for what He's done and what He's doing. Because now you're reaping so much, you're like, man, did I just sow? You know,
right? Yeah,
right. You know, you don't even think about it. You don't even think about the sowing part.
Exactly.
I don't think about it. It's like I just get to enjoy all of the fruits of the labor. Mm-hmm. You know, it's almost unfair. We say it all the time, man.
Like, so unfair.
It's unfair.
There's no way other people can be experiencing what we experiencing right now. Seriously,
sucks to be everybody else.
Right? I'm telling you, we sit there sometimes like, is this really that good? You know.
Yeah. You know. No, I think it's important, man.
And even during the tough and the hard conversations, the ones where we can still come out on top and say, you know what, man, we getting through this. We got through this. Yeah, that hurt. Ouch. Yeah, that hurt. Ouch. But baby, I'm sorry. And I love you. And I understand this is what I did wrong. And this is what it is that I'm going to do to change that, because I don't want to see you hurt. Oh, okay. And this is what I'm going to do. He actually taught me. I always give him credit on it, how to communicate. I thought I knew how to communicate, right? You know, we think that communication is talking, right? No, the true form of communication is one speaks, the other one is quiet, and they listen. And they listen actively. hey, I hear what it is that you're saying. Okay, now is this what it is that you say? He came up with these rules of engagement, and that, you know, of course, sometimes, you know, things get so good and emotional. Sometimes the rules of engagement go out of the door, but 9 times out of 10, what I end up seeing was that the end result is that we were getting a resolution. We were getting things resolved, and we did not have to revisit them. So even though originally when he was like, okay, this is how we gonna communicate, and I'm like, who you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a minute, you know, I'm a Leo and I'm from Baltimore, so wait a minute, you know. But once he broke it down and say, okay, now you go, you finish. And I'm like, what do you mean am I finished? You know, when we first talking about this. But once I realized, okay, yeah, I'm finished. And he started to talk and I break him off and he's like, no, don't, I didn't interrupt you. It's my turn. And once we got that thing down pat and I realized, man, okay, I actually heard what he's saying. Now, how are we going to resolve it? Okay, this is what you're going to do. And this is what we rarely have to revisit things over and over again. It was so much more productive. And again, it was because we understood. So that, again, that communication thing, I'm grateful for it. It makes things so much better.
Did you have something you wanted to ask?
No, we have a few minutes left. I was gonna just ask, what are some of the benefits of being in a blended family?
It's fun.
Yeah, it's I don't know about everybody else's blended family, but ours is pretty awesome, man. You know, she came with some outstanding, awesome girls, and I came with some great kids as well. So that's kind of, we kind of got lucky, you know, because some kids are not awesome. Some kids are just boom, you know. Some kids are jerk, and you got to deal with it.
And sometimes all of them have their jerk moments, and we got to, you know. And then again, we're very straightforward, adamant. You know, they receive whatever their talk or their punishment is. And then at the end, I'm doing this because I love you and I care about you, right? And they may have attitudes or whatever, but all in all, our kids, we have so much fun. It's so much different personalities. We laugh. Somebody's bound to say something silly. Someone is bound to say something silly. Yeah,
I think the benefit is really just the opportunity to lead. You know, I think that not everybody is a born leader. Some people can kind of can create that opportunity to be leaders, but some people are just born, right? And I think I'm a born leader, and I enjoy it. And so the opportunity to lead,
and he does an excellent job.
Is awesome. You know, it's awesome. I think it's very it's something that is very humbling. I think it's a form of accountability. I was listening to, we were all at a brunch. If you haven't been to, what's the brunch down Sequoias? It was pretty good. Went to Sequoias, and the oldest girl was there, and she's there, and it's a table full of adults. And of course, everybody having adult conversation, and she's just sitting there and absorbing. And somebody asked her, so who do you look to for to decide what kind of guy you want to date? And she said, I look at him. And, you know, I almost couldn't eat the rest of my meal. You know what I mean? It's one of them gut moments that's like the butterflies in the stomach. But it was awesome because that's exactly my goal. That's my mission. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be in a position to lead, I need you to see what you're supposed to see. Like, this was the reason why I felt like it wasn't a benefit for my children to see a relationship that wasn't healthy. That was the main reason why I said I can't continue this. So if I'm going to be in a relationship, I need the kids to be able to see this is what a relationship is supposed to look like. So I think it's an awesome benefit, especially for the children, because the children get to see, oh man, this can work. So marriage can work,
Mhm.
families can work,
And they can actually like each other and enjoy each other and have a good time.
man, they actually like each other,
Yeah.
have a good time. Like,
Mhm.
so I think that's a profound benefit.
Yeah, and just knowing our kids are gonna, like you said, one day gonna look back and say, okay, if I enter into a relationship, I wanted to look like theirs. I wanted to look like my parents.
They have a bar.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's a huge. Another benefit is we don't realize how we're teaching our kids whether or not it's a good idea to get married. Right? Because they're observing, and they're like, man, I don't want to deal with that. Man, I don't think I want to get married. I talk to kids all the time, and I'm like, is that something you think about? And it's no wonder some of them say, I'm not thinking about that or having kids. So, you know, in our case, I know for a fact that our kids are going to be like, yeah, that's a good thing. Marriage is a good thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
I tell you guys, this has been awesome. We're out of time, but we're going to get you guys back on. Trust me.
Oh,
that's all we get is an hour.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
But
I appreciate y'all real want to say doing this, like you said, there's not many platforms out there that's talking about, you know, the blended families and, you know, even some of the tough conversations. We need to do probably a whole nother segment on that. Let's talk about
like a whole day.
No, we got some more lined up. Trust me on that. We got
okay, all right.
because there's so much that you guys bring to the table, and unfortunately, a lot of times people think years represent wisdom. Years represent understanding. No, it doesn't. And so there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of understanding that you guys bring to the table now that the body needs, that the world needs. And so we want to allow you guys to help us in assisting the world to get that information. And so we take we're so honored that you guys have taken up this opportunity to share with us. And please, when you guys do that book, let us be one of the first platforms.
Oh man, what?
Yeah.
Y'all got that.
We want to be one. We're not the first. Let us at least be the second.
Yeah, we all up there.
We got 2 books coming out. His is what's your title?
Run Towards the Pain.
Run Towards the Pain, and mine is called Invalid Validation.
Oh,
Invalid Validation.
I love it.
So,
And so listen, guys, we thank you. This is Dr. and Mrs.
Von Evans.
Robert and Vaughn Evans.
Rob and Vaughn.
He gonna take my name.
Oh, can you pronounce your name for me?
It's my real name.
Yes.
It's Jean Voana.
John. Okay. I knew it was
Jean Voana. Yeah.
So Rob, is that bougie or what's that?
I'll save my comment.
See why he makes such a good part.
Yeah, I ain't gonna dip my toe in that one. No,
Girl from South Carolina. My mom was just.
I thought I threw it out there.
No, I love the name. I thought it fit her. She's very unique. When I first saw her with that red mohawk, brother. Woo! I said, "Oh man, I at least got to speak to her." That's what you got to at least speak, you know.
Right? No, guys, listen. We love you guys. Thank you, guys. Listen, this is Dr. and Mrs. Evans. They will be back with us. Hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, we can get you guys back on because we want to wrap this up. There's some more questions we want to ask you guys that's just going to be a benefit. Dr. Evans, how can they reach you if they need if they're seeking counseling?
So the website is empowertoday.net. Email is Dr. Evans, DREVANS at empowertoday.net. And then on all social media is at Empower All Day.
Yes.
Okay, great. And so listen, guys, we just thank you guys for, again, joining us on this platform. Sweetheart, give them closing information.
Okay, so this broadcast will be aired on Thursday from 8 to 9 p.m. on WJMS Radio. You guys can tune in and download TuneIn radio.co as well. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud for replays. Our email is
YouTube.
Yes, and YouTube. We are a blended family at gmail.com, and our website is intheblenderministries.com.
And so,
Love it.
Oh,
thank you
Y'all
guys.
so much.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
we love the work that you do.
Thank
Please
you.
keep it up, man.
Yes.
We love y'all.
Thank you. And until next time, peace.
Bye, guys.